Apart from financial benefits, was Stoke, do you feel, the best choice from the options you had before Roy Keane and Sunderland approached you? I'm not bringing them into the equation because that was sort of last.
Yeah. Well, Hull I didn't want to go to. Hull I just felt would go straight back down again. Stoke, for whatever else, they were fighters. You know, they had that about them. They were fighters, which I liked. Liked getting stuck in. And Aston Villa had John Carew, and they were looking for a backup striker, so I wouldn't have played. So Stoke really, then it became the only game in town. And then I signed, and then we did our shape play. Tony Pulis, all he used to like to do was shape every day. And all of that means is the 11 players who are going to play stand on the pitch against no opposition, and he grabs you by the arm and moves you into, he'll throw the ball, and then he'll move you all one by one. If the ball's there, that's where you all should be. If the ball goes over there, that's where you all should be. If the ball goes over there, this is where you should, every day, day in, day out. It worked, but it's mentally tough doing it because it's just the most boring thing as a footballer you can do. I remember trying.
I'm guessing that's the exact opposite to Steve Coppell sessions as well.
It was the exact opposite. And I'd had 5 years, you know, so I was fairly entrenched in one way of doing something. I wasn't very flexible initially. You know, I became used to it. But a lot of it was alien to me when I first got there. Excuse me. I remember trying to do some shooting practice after training, and he sent a coach out to say I wasn't allowed. Striker not being allowed to do shooting practice. And I was never allowed to do shooting practice. So I'd go out before the lads. Then he changed the rule. I felt he just had a massive problem with me from day one. So I would take the bag of balls, I would go out in the morning and do some finishing. So then he brought in a rule that said the lads have to go out together as one at 10 o'clock. I was like, I'm not trying to be difficult. I'm trying to improve myself as a player. You know, we never did shooting practice, ever, not once. What's the name of the game? And anyway, then I saw what the name of the game was, and I realised that I wasn't a striker. I was a midfielder. And that was a hard lesson, because in the shape leading up to the first game, our game plan was, apart from the set pieces, which we were good at, our game plan was get the ball to Ricardo Fuller. Wherever Ricardo Fuller is, get the ball to him. I was only there to win goal kicks, flick-ons from goal kicks, and to get in the way, to be an extra body in midfield and get in the way of people. That's all I was. That was my job. So I remember fans coming up to me saying, fucking you aren't scoring any goals, fuck this and fuck that. And you'd look at the running stats, you'd be top by a mile, because you were having to support Rick, but then go back and defend, and then running stats were off the charts. I've never ever been so fit as I was at Stoke. I wish I was that fit now, but it was horrible. It was painful, physically painful to play that way. But by the skin of our nuts, it kept us up.
Do you think Tony Pulis, to spend such a big fee on a striker, £5.5 million for yourself, and then try to change the way that you effectively played, do you feel that maybe the transfer was over his head in terms of someone else had, maybe the director or someone else had made the bid? Because it just seems so bizarre to bring in a striker like yourself and then try to completely change the way he plays.
And all I wish is that he would have just come out and said, we've signed Kits, but we're not going to play him as an out-and-out striker because we've got Rick. And this is the way we're going to play. And I bought him much more as a man in midfield who can perhaps help getting forward, but he can help us getting back. That's where I see his strength. If he'd have said that, everyone would have gone, yeah, okay. But then when you play for 5 games and then 10 and then 15 and you don't score, people go, oh, we've got a striker, record signing, and he's not scoring. But the intelligent people watching are going, yeah, but Tony's playing him as a midfielder, and actually we're picking up points and we're winning the odd game and it's working. But he just kind of left. I felt let down by him there because I felt he just hung me out to dry a little bit in that regard. He could have cleared it up in one press conference or one whatever, but he didn't. And the thing is, I wasn't playing badly. We had sort of myself, Dean Whitehead, and Glenn Whelan as a sort of a three buzzing around, and not many people got around us. Not many people got through us and outfought us. And I thought, what? I haven't played as a midfielder since I was 10 years old. I had good players around me. That helps. I thought, I'm not playing too badly here. And you couldn't fault the effort. Like I say, with the running stats, you couldn't fault it. It was always effort on the pitch from everyone at Stoke. That was the one thing you could rely on when we played. The effort was never outfought, never outbattled. And we just did enough just to keep ourselves in the league. But I'd gone back to Reading by that point anyway. I went back to Reading on loan for 4 months, I think, because I think, I don't know, it just, I just became really depressed with the whole thing. I had a wife and a baby. I couldn't drive, remember, so I was stuck in the house. Claire and I started to get on top of each other in a bad way. And, a little baby roaming around and it was just tough. It was really, really tough. And I said, well, let's just go back to where we were happy. Then I went back to Reading. We got to the playoffs and we lost. We lost comfortably to Burnley, who were a good team. And I had to go back to Stoke the following year.
When you returned back to Stoke, did you go back with the mentality that clean slate? Maybe you can chat with Tony Pulis, try to put a line under the first experience and try to really kickstart your career there?
Yeah, absolutely. That's absolutely what I felt. But then, because we just had players who were, they were getting away with things that I wouldn't get away with. Not that I was trying to get away with it, but it's just if I did something wrong, it was like, he brought the whole of Stoke down on top of me. Someone else did something wrong. He didn't see it. I remember Ricardo Fuller punching our captain on the pitch, Andy Griffin at West Ham, and get sent off. And he walked off and he got on the coach, and we all came off after the game and going, for fuck's sake, he dropped us right in the shit there. And Tony's gone, no, we've got to go easy on Rick. Meanwhile, our captain is sat there with a black eye. And two things happened after that. Ricardo Fuller was let off scot-free, and Andy Griffin never played for us again. So he had his favourites, and he was. I remember there's another couple of examples. Tunshai, we were playing Hull at Hull, and Tunshai. Somebody had got sent off. I think Abdullah Faye got sent off. Nothing happened to Abdullah Faye, of course. Tunshai came on, or Tunshai, who had already come on. Then Abdullah Faye got sent off, so he brought Tunshai back off again because he needed to put a defender on. Understandably, Tunshai was not best pleased. So he walks off, gets changed. This is while the game's still going on, gets changed, jumps in a taxi and goes home. This is while the game's still going on. Totally unheard of. So we have a meeting on the Monday. Tony digs me out for something. Can't even remember what it was. Dug me out for something. And I went, well, hang on a minute. What about this fucking guy? And he said, I swear to God, he said, no. It's different for Tony because he's a foreigner. What? What are you talking about? He's a foreigner. It's different. They do things differently. I'm like, fuck this. Abdoulaye Faye in the changing room at Chelsea. We were warming up in the changing room before the Chelsea game at Stamford Bridge. And Abdoulaye Faye, who never really took the warm-ups very seriously, we're all in a circle right now, sprint on the spot, like all this sort of stuff. We're all in a circle in the changing room. Abdoulaye Faye's in socks and flip-flops, right? Like this. He was in flip-flops like these, doing the warm-up. And 5 minutes into the game, he pulls his calf. By half-time, we're about 4-0 down. So we come in, Glenn Whelan, all credit to Glenn Whelan. Abby, fucking, you're fucking around in your, I'm not going to do his accent, you're fucking around in your, not taking it fucking seriously, and that's what fucking happens. Abdoulaye gets up and smacks it. Nothing happened to Abdi. Nothing happened.
He literally just got up and put a right hook straight.
Just got up and smacked him, yeah. Nothing happened to Abdoulaye. And you're like, you know what? I don't want to be a part of this. I really don't want to be a part of this anymore. So I got my agent to do a deal with Portsmouth, and Stoke signed. Who did Stoke sign? The defender, Wilson. And he signed Wilson from
Mark Wilson.
Yeah, Mark Wilson.
Yeah.
From Portsmouth, and then myself and Liam Lawrence went the other way. And I thought, thank God I'm out of there. I didn't even care going back down to the Championship at that point. I thought, just thank God I'm out of there. But then that's when the shit really hit the fan.
Did you have a last sort of word with Tony Pulis before you moved? Can you remember your last conversation with him?
No, because he wouldn't let me train with the first team. By the time I left, he was making me train with the kids. He was making me come in on my own to train on Sundays. He was doing everything he possibly could to fuck me off. And Andrew Davis as well. And myself and Andrew Davis, we would walk past the first team pitch. And Andrew Davis said to me, whenever we walk past this pitch, you've got to laugh. Don't let him see that he's broken us. So we used to walk past and we'd laugh all the way across. He'd get so fucking angry about it. He got Peter Reid to basically just be a wanker to me. So Peter Reid used to take the rejects, bring them in on Sunday. And Peter Reid had a 1980s coaching manual. And he used to do these 1980s coaching drills where we would get in 2s or 3s and you'd bounce the ball and then do like 2 knees, 2 shoulders ahead, and then you'd have to run off to the goal, round the goal and come back again. I mean, it's like non-league. So he goes, right, next one, bounce the ball, 2 left foots, 2 left knees, throw it to the next person, run, come back, next person, run, come back, next person, run, come back, put the ball on your head when you're finished. So you do it, humour him, we do it. Next one, right, bounce start, 2 heads, fucking whatever, back to the person. I said, bouncing start, Reedy. He went, what? I said, is it a bouncing start? All the others have been bouncers, bouncing start. He comes running over, puts his finger in my, are you trying to be fucking clever? I looked at Liam, went, what? He went, are you trying to be a fucking clever fuck with me? I said, I'm just asking Reedy if it's a bounce and start. What's the problem? Fuck off in then. Go on, fuck off in. Everyone's going, and this is the other thing, I'm looking around for a bit of help from the lads. Nothing. So called them all shit houses. Do you fucking say, do your 1980 session with him, fuck off. Done with it. Walked past. Pulis chirps up. What's happened, Reedy? What's happened? He's being a clever fucker. Pulis turns, but he's just about to say something. I went, "You can shut the fuck up as well." Walked off in, and that was it. And then it was over. Then it was over. And we did a deal. Me and Liam Lawrence, like I say, swapped with Mark Wilson, and I came out of there shell shocked. Like, what the fuck was that? What was that? I remember my dad took me to Stoke. The first home game, I don't remember who it was. My dad followed me everywhere. And driving up, this is the first home game, driving up to Stoke. Pulled up at the traffic lights, there's a pub on the left. Some guy in a white tracksuit comes flying out the pub in the middle of the road, blood all up his leg, all up his side. He's been stabbed. It's not funny, but he's been stabbed. This is, the kickoff's fast approaching. Get out the car, Stoke tracksuit, Fucking, are you all right? Are you all right? Are you okay? Fortunately, somebody had called. And I think the landlord must have called an ambulance or something. And in about 2 minutes, it was there. So I'm like, all right, there you go. So when I'm turning up to the stadium for the first home game, we play the home game. I don't know who it was against. I don't know what the result was. Tried to erase a lot of it from my mind. Got in the car afterwards. I think we won. We may well have won. Got in the car. Drove home. My dad wasn't saying anything. Oh, it's okay. He's just upset about the stabbing. Leaving. It's a 2-hour journey back home. I'll just leave him. Let him drive. I won't say anything. Put the radio on. About 10 miles outside of Letchworth, he turns to me and says, "Do you think I drove you around as a kid every fucking Saturday, every fucking Sunday to have to watch you play that sort of football?" That's what he said to me. And he never came and watched me ever again. So that's how bad it was.
Pick me up from Fratton Park, moving to Portsmouth, a new chapter in your career. You finally escaped what's been a torrid time for you in Stoke. How did you settle initially in Portsmouth?
I'd bought a house back down south when I was at Stoke because I was leasing a house, but then when I got my license back, I didn't want to live anywhere near Stoke. Just didn't want to be. I was depressed, clinically depressed. I didn't want to be reminded of the place at all. I go in, I train, I come home again. And so I leased the place to Asmir Begovic, and he stayed there. And then I went. I bought a house down here, and it was only an hour because the training ground at Portsmouth is not in Portsmouth. It's in Eastleigh. So straight down the bottom of the M3, and it's right there. So it was one road, and I was there at training. It took me an hour every morning, which compared to doing the 4-hour round trip to Stoke was like, not a problem. And initially, it looked good. It was Liam, I knew was a good player. Kanu was there. Haridason, there was still some kind of players left over from Harry's day. But Steve Cottrell was trying to bring in young players. There was a young Matt Ritchie there, good little player. Joel Ward was there. He's now at Palace. And Ashdown I knew from Reading, decent keeper. David Nugent was there. John Utaka was there, who was left over, but still, he was only 28, was still a decent player. Couple of extra signings, and we were sort of thinking, Aaron McQuainer, this is all right. This is quite a solid championship side. On the pitch, we just could not put it together. We were just 11 individuals. We weren't a team, and the worst thing was we were all really good mates. We all really liked each other, and that made it worse because in the best teams you need a bit of needle. You need a little bit, like myself and Sidwell. Never got on, but you need that. You need a bit of that. You need a bit of. You just because when you cross the line, when you go on the pitch, it's a terrible cliche, but when you go on the pitch, you forget it. You fight for. I would fight for him, and he would fight for me. We don't have to like each other off the pitch. As long as on the pitch you're fighting for each other, that's all that matters. We didn't have any of that at Portsmouth. There was nothing. There was no reason not to like anybody. Everyone was perfectly lovely, you know. And I think that became a problem. We got on really, really well. But then the club, which had come out of administration, went back in again. And this is in the second season. And that's when things were really bad. That's the worst I've ever experienced in football. You know, I have to say, some people who go through their whole careers and it's a bed of roses and it's great and all power to you, and it's much better in the long run if you can do that. But some of the shit I've been through in football, or not been through, but seen, it's like, fucking hell, I experienced everything that football can do, the great highs and the lows and the this and that and administrations and whatever else. It's like everything. And that administration was horrendous because Portsmouth were going to the wall. They really were. And so players started to leave. So then we would have to play youth team players. And then we'd just get bashed on the pitch. And we came back for pre-season and there were 5 of us left. And I was on 20,000 a week, but nobody wanted me. You know, Stoke had put it around that I was an arsehole, I was a troublemaker. So no one would touch me. So I couldn't get a club. So it was either leave Portsmouth and never get any money, stay at Portsmouth and do some kind of a deal with Trevor Birch, who was the administrator at the time. And I had a mortgage at the time, which was £15,000 a month, which pegged to my contract wasn't a problem because I was earning 20,000 a week and I had a 5-year mortgage. So it was no problem. But then when Portsmouth went into administration, I remember it. When Portsmouth went into administration, it came up, breaking news, Portsmouth goes into administration. What do you think the first phone call that I got was? The very first phone call. Not from my dad, not from mates, not from anyone else. The first phone call I got was from the bank. How are you going to pay your mortgage? It's the first phone call I got from NatWest. How are you going to pay your mortgage? So, well, look, I don't, I'm not sure what's going to go on here. I'm not, but I can't, so I couldn't leave. And I know people listening to this will probably say, well, didn't you have any money? I had no money. I had no savings whatsoever. It had all gone on property that had either blown up and lost and, I had nothing. This contract at Portsmouth was all the money I had in the world. Everything else was tied up in a house that I couldn't sell. It was such a specialised, like one of those Huff houses, It was so specialised, nobody wanted it. It was just after 2008 when the world had gone tits up anyway, so everyone was still struggling after the crash. And I was just in a real sort of dire situation. So when I was turning up at the training ground and I had people throwing stones at my car and, kicking it as I went in and shouting ginger this and ginger that as I was walking from the car into the thing, I was like, I can't do anything. I've got a young family. I'm sorry for your club. I really am. But you did give me the contract. You signed me. It wasn't a problem 5 minutes ago. And nobody wants me. What am I going to do? I was in the worst situation ever, like absolutely horrible, just hated by, the fans hated me, the bank hated me, the club hated me, no one wanted me. I was like, what am I going to do? All I've got in the world is my family. So that's who I'm going to protect. That's who I'm going to look after. And that was, Hobson's choice in the end. That was it. So eventually we did a deal on 50p in the pound. So I think they owed me £1 million. We did a deal for half. Then they said they couldn't do that and that they were only going to give me 20p in that 50p. So I took the money, put the house on the market, still couldn't sell it. And I retired. I just retired. I said, fuck, I don't want to do this game anymore. This game is causing me more mental stress and headaches. I'd rather just go and get a job. you know, I don't even care how it looks to people. I've had enough of this. This is not why I became a footballer. I just wanted to play football. That's all I wanted, just to play football. And you just weren't being allowed to. So I was at the leisure centre trying to keep fit, swimming, which is not a good sight for anyone's eyes. And a guy called me from the side, Kitson. I thought, here we go, Portsmouth fan. Kitson. There was this guy. I said, yeah. He said, oh, I thought it was you. He said, come down to the end. No, he said, meet me in the cafe afterwards. All right. He seems all right. Went in there. He turned out to be Simon McCabe. And Simon McCabe was Kevin McCabe's son, the owner of Sheffield United. And he said, we've got a situation at Sheffield United. He said, we were absolutely sure that Ched Evans was going to get off for his rape case. Absolutely sure he was going to get off, and he hasn't. We haven't got a striker. Are you fit enough? Can you do something for us? Just until January, because that's when his appeal comes up, and we're sure he's going to get off. So I said, yeah, sure. So I did a deal to play for Sheffield United. I lived in the hotel, and we got to the playoffs, and we lost to fucking Yeovil in the playoffs, and one of the worst experiences ever, because I just loved playing football for that club. That is a club that they were so similar to Reading in respect of the kind of the size. The Sheffield United are probably a little bit bigger, but we'd had such a rivalry with them at Reading that I think a sort of a bond, like a kinship, formed between those clubs. And Sheffield United had been shit on so many times from the Premier League, you know, West Ham, all of that affair. And they just seemed ripe for a club that was going to go back to where it belonged, which they have now, which I'm so I'm so happy about, because I had a year, just slightly less than a year there, and honestly, I loved every single second of it. The most amazing fans made me appreciate how good fans can be again. Great owners, still Kevin and Simon to this day, and Scott, still really good friends. It's unfortunate that the current owner has completely shit on Kevin and what he's done for that football club. It's a fucking disgrace what's happened. But that's business, I guess. That's football. But I had a year there that I just loved every second of it. I just loved it. I just thought it was great. If we could have gone up and I could have retired, that would have been it for me. I would have been happy about that. But we lost in the playoffs, and you know, they were going to go a different direction, bring in a different manager, and I got a nice phone call from him saying, Dave, you know, we're going to make a change. And I said, well, you know, I was only a stopgap anyway. I had an extra bonus 4 months, and I loved every second of it. Best of luck to you. And then I retired again.
Do you think that short spell at Sheffield United kind of reignited your faith back in football a little bit, in terms of such a hard time at Stoke, such a difficult time at Portsmouth with the administration and the fans? Do you feel you needed that time in Sheffield?
I said, because for all the times that I'd said, you know, I wouldn't have wanted to, I didn't want to carry on. It would have been probably a source of regret if I'd left on the terms or the way in which it had come to an end at Portsmouth. That wouldn't have been a nice way to go out. And so, it was just nice. I made some, you know, Tony McMahon I hooked up again with, who I'd been on loan at Middlesbrough with. Tony McMahon is the funniest man in football, the nicest guy you'll ever meet, absolutely hilarious, a complete and utter bomb scare, but just love him to bits. So he helped. We had a young Harry Maguire, lovely fella. Captain Doyle, great guy. Collins, the centre half. Yeah, we had some, Nick Blackman was there, great player. But just had some real nice guys. Barry Robson, who I always thought was, a whiner and a whinge bag, and he was. But when you played with him and you got to know him, he was just a lovely guy. So it was good. We had some really, one of my favourite games happened there when we played Bournemouth away, and it was a war. And absolutely, it became less about football. We sort of forgot the football after a minute. The football was over there somewhere in the corner. It just became an absolute war. And I've got a picture of it there's about 7 of us lying on the ground, and the ball's gone over this way. I just loved it. I just loved every second of it, and I'm glad that I had that year, like you say, because it's such a great club. It's the oldest United in the world. It's the oldest continual stadium used in the world. It's just got so much history, and it deserves to be where it is. And plus, Chris Wilder was my manager at Oxford, where I went to afterwards, and so it's great to see him doing well.
This brings us into Oxford and your time with Chris Wilder, as you mentioned. Talk to me about the club. Talk to me about everything going in your life at that moment, and how that manifested into you moving to Oxford United.
Yeah, so I'd retired again. This is the second time I'd retired, so I wasn't doing anything at all. And I got a call from my agent who said, Dave, Chris Wilder wants to meet you at Oxford's training. I said, Tim, I've retired. I've had enough. I've had a great year at Sheffield United, and that'll do for me. But I was still, 32. Plus, I needed the money. I did. It's no lie. I needed the money. And he said, just go along, just meet him for me. So he clearly already told him I was going to go there. I was like, all right, to get you out of this shit, I'll go there. So I dropped the kids off at school, and I drove to the training ground in Oxford, and it was like I was there in 20 minutes. I was like, this is almost too easy. I've been living in Sheffield for a year, in a hotel, no family, no car. So I just said, yeah, you know what? I'll go on then. I said, but I'm not. He said, we're looking for someone who scores 25 to 30 goals a season. I said, well, that's not me. I said, I've completely lost my, I'm not the Reading player anymore. I've completely lost my confidence in front of goal. I'm not quick enough anymore. And I'm a link-up man. That's all I am these days. I'm just not a striker, I'm afraid. Anyway, they signed me anyway. Because we had James Constable, who's Oxford's record goal scorer. So he just did, well, we'll play Bino up front, and you can then just be in the hole, being the link man. I said, all right, well, we'll give it a go. And we were top for ages and ages. And then Ian Lenigan, the chairman, in his infinite wisdom, decided to sack Chris while we were top. And I can't remember the name. I remember what he looks like, but I can't remember the manager that came in after that. Watkins, was it? Something like that. Gary Watkins? I don't know. And he sacked him. Right, hang on a minute. They clearly had an enormous falling out. I remember Chris saying to me, Dave, he kept saying, Dave, he wants utopia. He wants utopia. I said, what are you talking about? He said, he wants us to play all of the youth team players as well, but then he wants us to bring in big names, but then he wants us to, get promoted, but then he wants us to do this. He's like, we can't do it all. And he's right, you can't. So they'd had a big falling out, and Chris had left. And then obviously Chris then went to Northampton, saved them from relegation, and then won the league with them the next season. We were top, and Gary Watkins came in, and it just fell apart. Just completely would change this and change that, and it fell apart. Anyway, we limped out of the playoff places at the end of the season. And I had one more year left. They gave me a 2-year deal. I had one more year left. And I thought, well, I was 33, and it had been a good season, but I did feel like I couldn't help them anymore. I couldn't help them as a player. Game was changing. It needed Dave Kitson. It needed 25 to 26-year-old Dave Kitsons. It didn't need 33-year-old Dave Kitsons. But I turned up for pre-season training, and the club, Ian Lenigan, had sold it. And this fucking guy came in. Two suits came in. Gary Wadkins was there. It was Gary Wadkins, I'm sure it was. Gary Wadkins, something like that. And he was sat in the corner. We were having our dinner. So we just finished the morning shift running about. And these two guys came in and said, we're the new owners. At first we've heard of it. We're the new owners. We've just taken over the football club. And you're going to be seeing a lot of us around the place. And our first act is, sorry to do this, but we're going to make a change of manager. Gary, we're going to be relieving you of your duties. I've never seen anything like it in my life. He was sat fucking right amongst us having his dinner. Like this. They were like, you what? I remember saying, you fucking shithouses, that is criminal. You come in here and do that. Fuck off. And so I had nothing to lose at that point. Anyway, and he said, we own the Formula One team. And he said this, his exact words. If you're all good little boys, we'll let you come along to the factory and we'll let you see how we do it all. I said, fuck off, mate, will you? Get out. He said, you can change the wheels and all the rest of it. I said, you can come to my house and change the wheels on my car if you like. Fuck off. So he left. But in my head, I'm thinking, there's a new manager coming in. Who is it? So a little while goes past. You come back in. New manager, I'd like to present you a new manager. And I'm thinking, whoever this is that walks through this door is the difference between me having one last year as a professional footballer or retiring for good. Whoever walks through that door. And when Michael Appleton walks through the door, I shook hands with the players on the table when I was eating lunch with and said, lads, it's been an absolute pleasure. Wish you the very best of luck for the season. We finished our dinner because Michael Appleton had been the manager at Portsmouth and he hated me. He dropped me, didn't play me. The players resented him for not playing me because there weren't really, I wasn't ripping up trees, but there weren't a lot of options. And he didn't play me. And then he played me in one game and I scored. I got brought down for a penalty. I scored another one. And he came in and Michael Appleton said, you see this, lads, this is what we need. Dave, he hasn't played for fucking weeks. And he said, when he comes to it, he steps up and he plays. David Norris got up and went, what a load of fucking shit. He should have been playing fucking weeks ago. Fuck off. So that just made Michael Appleton hate me even more. So after dinner, Michael Appleton's going to take the training for the afternoon. So after dinner, we come out and I'm walking along. It's a blazing hot day and I can hear the ground's really hard and I can hear steps coming behind me, running behind me, and a shadow getting longer on the pitch. And I saw Michael Appleton and he went, Kits. I said, Michael. He said, what are you going to do then? I said, I'm not playing for you. He said, okay, you don't have to train this afternoon. I'll have the chief exec call you with an offer. That was it. That was the end of my career as a professional footballer. I went home. They paid up my contract, which was about 80 grand. And I wasn't a professional footballer anymore.
So sudden for such a long career just to end like that. How did you switch off from professional footballer to now?
I've got to say, initially, the weight just went. I just became a much happier person. I mean, I've been on lot of medication to make me a happy person for a long time since Portsmouth. So that has helped. But definitely there was a lifting of a great sort of weight on not even on my shoulders, on my chest, just like you couldn't breathe. And I knew it was the right decision, and I don't miss it. I have to say, I miss one little thing. I don't miss scoring a goal. I miss the bit where you walk off the pitch having just won, and the 10 minutes inside the changing room having just won. That's the only thing I miss. I don't miss anything else.
I know you're someone that doesn't like time, doesn't like structure, but when all that being on time at places, having a structured environment day in, day out is taken away from your life, how did you handle that aspect of it also?
Well, I'd already set up a couple of businesses, so I had that. I just felt I had more freedom. I suppose I miss not being fit. You know, I'm not fit. I'm probably the heaviest I've ever been. I'm not in any good condition at all. I miss being fit, and I need to do something about that. But I don't miss that structure. I'm not good with structure. I like to be able, like, you know, now it's 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and if someone rings and said, you know, blah, 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 I can do it, whatever it might be. You know, or if I just fancy doing something, or if something just happens to come on the telly, I never have that gut feeling of, you know, that Monday morning feeling, I guess you would call it. A lot of people carry that around with them every day. You know, I haven't got that. You know, could my life be easier financially? Yeah. Who's couldn't? You know, could I be happier? Yeah, who couldn't? But football is just is something I've done, and it's gone now, and it's not coming back. And no matter how much I tell myself that I miss it, I really don't. I really don't. I don't miss the people. I don't miss the players. I'm doing something at the moment which I can't say too much about, but it involved me going to see Ivar Ingimarsson in Iceland. This was before lockdown. And I was there for a week, and we didn't talk about football. We didn't do any of the remember when shit, you know, the lowest form of conversation. We didn't do any of the what about this and what about that. It was all about, you know, so where's Iceland's place in the world right now? Oh, this is something. Oh, you've built a spa over there. That's looking good. You know, how's Harapna? Oh, your kid's just, you know, he's going into this. Oh, he's doing that. Oh, your daughter. Just not to talk about football. It was between us is just like a real joy, to be honest. It was just really, really nice, because then you know that actually you did get something out of football. You know, not a medal, not a this, not a record. You got a good mate out of it. Someone that you can go to Iceland, of all places, and stay with and have a really good time, not be a burden. And he can do the same. Or I can go to see Bobby Convey in America, and not when I have to plan it in. I can go tomorrow. You know, if I can afford it, I can go tomorrow to see him. You know, or any of these guys. And that's probably the thing that I'm most grateful to football for. That for whatever anybody else thinks of me, and there are many who do, it doesn't fucking matter, because your real friends stick with you, you know, and that's what football gave me. I'm glad for that.
Internet rumours have been rife, and I feel, if I'm correct, I could unmask Zorro here. But I'm going to ask you the question anyway. Are you the secret footballer?
I have a fairly good idea as to who that is.
Do you know why? Do you know why your name would be so linked with that in internet cult circles?
Well, I haven't read it. So I've got a mate who, funny enough, I just went to, unfootball related, who I've been to stay with, who had one of the books, and said, and it was signed.
Wow.
So
Wow.
that's why I think I know who it is.
Interesting. Very interesting. I'd like to talk about the time you played against Cristiano Ronaldo. The time you gave him a bit of a telling off on the pitch. He can't
stop talking about it.
Could you recall that story for me?
Well, I think he just... Well, there's not much to it, really. I think he just fell over and I just said, you know, what, you stand up. He'd run. I think he'd overrun the ball and just fallen over. So I just said whatever I said to him, and that was it. But the thing is with Ronaldo was he was very good at doing this whole injustice, but he would never really get into an argument with you unless you really, which I never did. But I've seen people get right into his face to try and rile him, but I just think that makes him a better player. Because he knows he's the second best player in the world, so he doesn't really have to bow down to anyone. So he just, you know, no matter what I say to him or anybody else says to him, you know, he can kill us all with stats and everything else. But those things, it's funny when you say to kids that you played against these great players. It's almost like they look at you, then they look at you, then they look at your belly, then they think you're a liar, and then you show them a picture and they're like, so it's quite nice. Not that I go around doing that, obviously, saying, do you know who I used to be? The worst thing you can do. But it is quite cool, I suppose, isn't it?
If you could change one decision you made as a professional footballer that affected your career and took you in a different trajectory to your initial vision or plan, what would that decision be?
Honestly, I wouldn't have gone to play snooker. If my future self could just put a hand on my shoulder and just pull me back from something, that would have been it. That moment changed everything, and not in a good way for anybody.
For as many players as you've got on with in your career, you've no doubt come across people, as in any job, that you're not going to get on with. What do you think the reason that you and Steve Sidwell clash so much off of the pitch? I know you did your job brilliantly together. You worked as a team for a common goal. What do you think the reason that you didn't gel or mesh as humans?
I think we were just different people. I mean, it's not like I hate him. I mean, I'd like to think he doesn't hate me. It is literally just that. Some people just don't, you have no common ground. He was a London boy. He liked that, you know, having those lads. He liked having the banter. And I was sort of a very insular person. I always felt like I wasn't in on the joke, and that perhaps I was the joke. So I had like a healthy sense of paranoia about me, which isn't a good trait to have. He never did anything really, but save for one tackle. I do sometimes think if we played a charity match, there's one tackle I'd like to get him back for. He did put in a bad tackle on me, but you know, it's a long time ago. And like I say, you do stupid things when you're young. I just think he probably didn't like me from the off. But I can kind of caveat it by saying there was no common ground. I didn't like talking about the things that he liked talking about, and vice versa. You all have your own little groups. Mine was sort of more Ivar Ingemarson and Bobby Convey, James Harper. And Siddy's was, you know, like the Graham Stacks, and he liked those guys, the guys who were the same as him. And, you know, that's not unreasonable.
Do you think you're quite a rare breed of footballer? The fact that you shun the nightlife, the fact that you're into your Shakespeare, you're into your arts and culture more than maybe some of your contemporary peers?
A lot of good it did me. You'd be surprised. You had a conversation with Ivar and Gimas and you would be blown away. That guy is, one of the sharpest guys you'll ever meet in your life. You have a chat with guy Aaron Mokoena in South Africa, what he went through as a kid, surviving the Boycotton massacre,
Wow.
seeing people killed and slaughtered and maimed in front of them as a 9-year-old kid, 10-year-old kid, whatever it was. You'd be amazed. You'd be amazed. I find myself compared to these guys, a fairly regular, everyday fellow. But I guess that some people see me as a bit odd and a bit strange and a little bit weird, if you like. And years ago, I'd sort of rally against that. And as I get older, I just think, you know what, each to their own.
Do you think
we've got to get on? Everybody's got to get on, and we've got to get on. And I feel like we've never been, almost as a globe. You look what's happening in the States. I feel like we've never been more further apart ever, and we don't have to be. We can all help one another out if we really want it. But I don't believe that just saying it is going to do it.
It's interesting. Do you feel that Stoke, and in particular Tony Pullis's comments about you, stuck with you longer than some of the positive praise you've had in your career? Because if you were to come out and criticise, which you didn't, by the way, at the time, Tony Pulis and his tactics, maybe that would have stuck with him, where the criticism was aimed at yourself, like Tony, for instance, calling you petulant and stuff. Do you think that stuck with you, and the media persona then played you to that character a little bit?
I think somebody at I'm not going to name any names. I've got my suspicions. Somebody at Stoke did a real number on me, with the media, with the taxman, with the fans, with all the other managers telling them not to sign me. I have a fairly good idea who that was. Somebody did that. That's what sticks in my craw. But I also know that, and I try not to be this way anymore, try to be a very placid, laid-back kind of fellow. But it's hard. It's hard because life is hard at the moment. And it's not all my fault. Much of it is, but not all of it. And I suppose knowing that you're always going to be in someone else's head forever is spiteful, not a nice thing. But every now and again, when you're feeling really, really low, just makes you smile a little bit.
We've seen a lot of players, when they retire from the career and come back from the public eye, have suffered with some kind of mental health issue. It's only recently, within my sort of last 5 or 6 years, I can gather that it's got a lot more momentum, where it's not seen by other men as a weakness. It's not seen as a dysfunction to your game. It's okay not to be okay. Do you feel that the PFA and football in general needs to be more aware of the players' mental health, needs to be more aware of the after effects of some of these situations that the players have had to deal with? Because sometimes you're left after the game, I'm guessing, with a lot of emotion, a lot of turmoil, a lot of unresolved issues. Do you think that more could be done to help players in this situation?
Yeah, always more can be done for everything. Otherwise, the human race would never progress. It's never going to be, the work is never going to be done. Like, it's never going to be finished. Like that comedy sketch, football never ends. There's always more football. And it's the same with mental health. You're not going to cure it or solve it. There's always going to be, the next generation are going to have mental health issues. But they just are. I think it's the biggest affliction on men in this country. I think suicides of young men in this country is at the top of the things that kill young men in this country. That's unbelievable. And we have all the money in the world and every tool at our disposal to combat it. The PFA have got much better. Now they've been thrust into the public limelight, if you like, and they've got to do something about it. Too late for me, unfortunately, and a lot of the players before me. I despair for the generation before me. But now we can finally get, or they rather, can do something about it. They can do some proper work and do something about it. And that's all I ever wanted them to do.
I just want you to think back at the start of this journey, as we spoke about, when your dad was taking you on a Saturday or Sunday to your local sides, the enjoyment and the buzz that you and your dad and your family had from your involvement in this sport. And then to look at the journey that you've had and the success that you've had from playing this game. I think it's a fantastic achievement. I really do. I think it's something that you should be commended for, because it's not an easy route. No one told you if you did this, you would get to play for Stoke, or you would get to play for Reading. You've worked hard and achieved this. So I just want you to be sort of to understand if you are satisfied by what you've achieved in the game at this moment in time.
Well, I appreciate that. Satisfied? No, I don't think so. But then again, what is that? What is that word? It's satisfaction. You look at the top players in the world, the Champions League final coming up, someone's going to lose that. And they're not going to be satisfied with it. And they might look back, it might be their only chance. They might look back in years to come and say, wow, everything I did in my career, but that's the one game that I remember, and it's in my head every day. There's nothing you can do about that, I'm afraid. You can cope with it, learn to deal with it, but these are the risks you take as a player. If you get there, you can always lose. And not enough attention has been given to that, because we always focus on the winners. But in terms of my career, not satisfied with it at all, not by any stretch of the imagination. And I would be surprised if you found anyone who said that they're satisfied with their career. Lionel Messi will always have played on a team that lost 8-2. He just has, but he's Lionel Messi. So all we can do as people is try and focus on the good, try and deal with the bad. But it's so much easier if we all help each other.
What does the future hold for Dave Kitson? Do you see yourself in any capacity, Kits, going into the coaching or managerial aspect of the game? Is that something that you think you could get your teeth into?
No, I don't think so. I'd do it in a flash. I don't think anyone's going to give me that opportunity. I mean, I get on with Chris Wilder very well. I've asked him the question. There's nothing there for me. There comes a point where you can only handle so much rejection, and then you've got to move on. The PFA thing, that would have been well suited. But once I started to talk to people and get involved and start to dig, that's there's 3 criminal investigations on the go. That's not something I need to be a part of. They need to deal with that on their own. And taking the focus away from that is, for me, would be a big problem. The PFA has got some interesting days coming up, and I don't particularly want to be a part of it. So, in terms of football, no, I don't think there's anything. I don't think there's anything there. And I think I've probably been guilty as well of getting involved in things that don't concern me. I raise these points. I raise the points with the PFA. You're not doing enough on racism. You're not doing enough on this. You're not doing enough on that. And all that happens is you trip yourself up. You might bring it to people's attention, but you trip yourself up along the way. And that's unfortunate, but we all have to learn about it. It's a new world. We all have to learn if we're all going to get along better. But in terms of football, my name, I think, in terms of football is not a good one. And like I say, I know the people who have smeared me. I know who they are. there's nothing I can do about it, you know, but that's just the way it is.
If you look at the clubs and teams that you've played for, you've had some very successful spells at these clubs. You've had some work with some very successful managers and teammates who have now gone into the managerial and coaching system. I'm sure amongst the network of teams you've played for and players and clubs, I'm sure there is a role within the game for someone like yourself with the knowledge that you have, and more importantly, the experience. Like, you've played in the Premier League. You know what it's like to be there. You know what it's like to get there. These things are invaluable. It's like anything. Sometimes we've got to get used to and condition ourselves to getting used to the word no, so we don't fear it no more. It's like anything, I guess.
Well, I think you've hit upon an issue there, which is something that a lot of former professionals talk about, which is an issue for me in a different way, which is, you know, do you know a lot of people in the game that you can? Yes, I do. Is that necessarily a good thing? Maybe not. Does football advance because mates give their mates jobs? Probably not.
Interesting.
You know, if we don't open up to new ideas and we don't take ourselves out of our comfort zone and we keep employing number twos who tell us how great we are, we're not going to get anywhere. And there are a lot of people guilty of doing that. I don't want a job because I'm somebody's mate, because it's going to be more difficult to tell me when they fuck something up. And you have to have that. It's like I was saying about on the pitch. You have to have that. There has to be that barrier, that bit of honesty, that bit where if I say, you know what, you drop the ball there, you've done that, that's not right, that they won't get the arse with me. Well, they might for a while, but they'll realise that it's a constructive point.
Rather than being honest.
Yeah, rather than saying, just going along and just patting, you know, oh, we were unlucky today. I can't do that. You probably know me well enough by now. I can't do that. That's probably where people find me a bit awkward. But that's exactly the sort of person that I would want.
Yeah.
But I don't think that football does.
I'm sure there are many people out there that would rather be told the truth than bottle-fed lies, because you're in a game of football. You've got an opinion. Your experience level means you can judge what you're watching. So I don't think anyone wants to be told and fed something that's incorrect. So I'm sure, like, as you say, as much as there is places for those kind of roles, I'm sure on the other side of the spectrum, there is a space for someone who is going to be honest, who ain't going to blow smoke up a player just because he's the in favour thing. Do you know what I'm trying to get at?
I know exactly what you're trying to say, and I think they're better suited to, or maybe not better suited, but certainly suited to punditry.
Indeed.
If you look at someone like Graham Souness will tell you exactly what he thinks. Graham Souness, I don't know what his beef is with Pogba, but he will tell you what he thinks, whether he's right or wrong. You know, Gary Neville, as much as, you know, he's probably got Man United tattooed on his arse, but he'll tell you when they're not playing well, and he'll tell you when players are doing things that they should be doing. Those guys make the best pundits. Not always the best managers, but the best pundits.
Now on the head there, like, I was just thinking about Roy Keane as well when you said the exact same thing.
Yeah.
Not all pundits will make the best managers, but that outspokenness is what you want to hear and see.
They don't all make the best. At least with Roy Keane, I mean, I like watching Roy Keane for entertainment value. Do I agree with everything he says? Definitely not. Do I love watching him? Yeah, absolutely. You know what he thinks, whether you agree with it or not. It is entertainment. You know, it's there's no point in predicting stuff that people won't even remember you predicted. It's got to be done in the here and now, because football, it all goes around one game. Everyone wants to get involved in that game right now. And with social media, people want to call Gary Neville or whatever. They want to say Roy Keane's made a great point. They want to say, oh, Graham Souness, anything Liverpool, blah, blah, blah. That's what they want to do. And that's a skill. And that's the part of the entertainment thing that you've got to get right. It's one thing, Gary Neville's brilliant at it. It's one thing to know what you're looking at. It's another thing being able to get it across in a way where you're impartial and you're making sense to the person that's listening.
pleasure talking to you about your career and stuff today. And I can't thank you enough for giving me some of your
Pleasure
time.
mine.
I really appreciate it. I really
Anytime.
appreciate it. Thank you ever so much.
No worries.
We get a chance to
give my best to Courtney as well.
I will do. I just want to say thank you to Leon Court as well for getting you onto the podcast or video cast.
He's a good guy. He's a very, very good guy. I like him a lot. Yeah.
Appreciate that. Thank you ever so much for your
All
time.
right, no worries. Take it easy.